Our team decided to study the effects of urbanization on the biodiversity of migratory waterfowl. Multiple studies have shown human disturbance can have fitness consequences on various bird species. We were wondering if this translates over to migratory waterfowl. Migratory waterfowl are not only an indicator of health of an ecosystem, but they are part of multiple ecosystems that they migrate to. An impact in one ecosystem may impact many. To determine, we observe the biodiversity of waterfowl in rural and urban environments. Our methods, we collected data at urban lakes and rivers and at rural lakes and rivers, recorded the number of each species, and calculated biodiversity. Using our data sheet created, we used the ANOVA statistical test to determine a significant difference of effect of urbanization on biodiversities in rural versus urban environments. We also totaled the number of birds in each environment. Our findings suggested no effect of urbanization on migratory waterfowl, and then we hypothesized reasons of our results and future directions of our research. Studies by Davidson and Madsen suggest that human disturbance can have a fitness consequence on birds. They lose vital feeding time in the autumn months, which is especially important to birds as they're preparing for the migration. They also suffer an energy consequence by flying, as they're forced to use that vital energy instead of storing it for migration. Migratory waterfowl play a vital role in the ecosystems that they are a part of by being predators, herbivores, and vectors, as they can bring seeds and disease in and out of ecosystems. Additionally, migratory waterfowl are a part of every ecosystem along the migration route. An impact in one ecosystem can impact the biodiversity of another along the route. In a world with ever-increasing population of humans, these birds may be subject to decreasing population, ultimately affecting a multitude of ecosystems along the way. The goal of this experiment is to discover if urbanization affects migratory waterfowl by observing and comparing the biodiversities of urban lakes and rivers, rural lakes and rivers. We hypothesize that the urbanization will impact biodiversity of waterfowl. Hopefully, through our experiment, we can quack the case.
For our experiment, we went to different bodies of water in urban and rural environments. To collect our data, we watched the waterfowl, like the people in our pictures, minus the binoculars, sadly, then wrote down the species and how many of each we observed. To determine the species, we used the iNaturalist app, since none of us are bird experts. Then we would turn to the locations multiple times to collect our data. Afterwards, we used the Simpsons biodiversity test to determine the biodiversity and an ANOVA test to determine the significance.
This graph shows that the average biodiversity between urban and rural lakes and rivers. As you can see, the biodiversity is consistent between urban and rural bodies of water, showing that urbanization hasn't affected the waterfowl populations. This difference between lakes and rivers is large. However, it isn't really important to our study as a whole, only as a possible confounding variable. All this was calculated by taking data collected at each body of water and putting them through an ANOVA test, which, as shown in the graph, gave us different results with no significant difference in biodiversity between rural and urban bodies of water. This pie chart is just to show that the number of birds in both urban and rural bodies of water is nearly the same. We weren't specifically trying to count the same number of birds in each environment, but this fact seemed relevant in the study overall. It proves that urbanization doesn't affect the number of waterfowl that live in a certain environment.
So as Zach just discussed, we conducted an ANOVA test in order to analyze the results of our study, and we found that there was no significant difference between urban and rural lakes and rivers. So we suggest from these findings that urbanization has no effect on the biodiversity of migratory waterfowl. We hypothesize many reasons for this outcome, one including that urbanization is not necessarily new, and migratory waterfowl may have had time to adapt to these disturbances in order to thrive in these different environments. Our fascinating discovery led us to further analyze our results in order to ask important questions. It's important to note that all of the bodies of water we observed during the study were located in inland Michigan, which this might not even be a prime location to stop during the migratory patterns of these birds. So we're curious to conduct our experiment in bodies of water that are closer to the Great Lakes and the surrounding regions in order to understand those results. We also wonder if timing plays a key role in the migratory pattern of certain species of these waterfowl. We conducted our study from late October to early November and found no results. But what about different times during the migratory waterfowl, like early autumn or very late autumn? We are also interested in conducting further research on non-migratory species and if urbanization has any effect, because they are stuck in one location rather than being able to travel and migrate to different ecosystems like the migratory waterfowls can. So the take-home message of this study is that waterfowl are very resilient to change, including human development, urbanization, and the disturbances that come along with that. This resilience has not only great implications for the future survival and reproduction of waterfowl themselves, but to sustain the ecosystems that they are a part of. As our world grows and urbanization continues, it might not be as big as a problem as we thought for certain species like waterfowl. Thank you for listening to our proposal.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.